Hey everybody, how's it going? Hopefully y'all having a great day today. In today's video, I wanted to give a little bit of an update on a new book that I've been reading since it's been a while since I've been doing that. So the book that I'm on right now is a book called Misbehaving by Richard Thaler. And essentially the book aims to describe all of these thinking and logic flaws that humans have when it comes to finance. It's a very interesting book. I really recommend anyone pick it up so far. I'm about 100 pages in. And it's been wonderful. Starting to get to the point where it's less about how the book came to be and more of actually what the different fallacies that we have in our minds are. And introing the book is this idea of loss aversion, which is what I wanted to make a video on today. So in general, what is loss aversion? Well, initially there was a theory called prospect theory, right? Which is a fancy way of basically saying if you get money, the more money you have, the less it means to you. So what do I mean by that? If you have a net worth of $0 and you were to gain $100, well, you'd be over the moon, right? That would be incredible. Now, if you have $100,000 and you get $100, still good, but not as impactful, right? Let's say you have $1 million and then you get $100. Well, now it's starting to get to a trivial point where you may not even care, right? You may not even notice that amount of money hitting your account, right? So what they've started to plot out is the graph for gain was an exponential curve going up and to the right with a plateau going this way, right? Whereas the further down you go this way is the happiness, or the further you go this way is wealth, the higher up is happiness, right? So you'll see as like your wealth increases, the happiness of each subsequent dollar kind of flattens out, right? So Richard Thaler thought, okay, well, I wonder what it's like in the opposite direction, right? And what they found was the graph is about a 2x steep slope in the downward direction, right? So what this demonstrated is that loss hurts about double what you would feel in positive emotion with gain, right? So if you have a net worth of $0 and you lose $200 or you lose $100, right? You're going to feel so much worse than if the inverse happened and you were at a $0 net worth and you gained $100. Now, this is also very interesting too, because at the upper ends of worth, you need to receive more money to have that feel like something. Well, the inverse is also true, right? Where if you have a net worth so negative, or, you have a bunch of debt, what's another $200, So all of a sudden you have somebody who doesn't care about a $200 loss when they're $10,000 in debt. But if they had no money in debt, then they care much more about that $200 loss, right? So introduce this interesting concept of how loss affects humans, right? And from here, so many other topics start to branch out, right? So for example, when thinking in contexts of gains, people make different decisions than when they think about things within contexts of losses. So for example, if you have $10, right? And you had the opportunity to take a 50-50 shot and double it, or you lose it all, or just walk away with the $10, a majority of people would vote that they would just take the guaranteed $10, right? They wouldn't really gamble and risk losing the $10 because the sure bet is they end up with a positive $10. However, when presented with the opposite framing, but still the same end result, people choose completely differently, right? So if you're $10 in debt, right? And you have a 50-50 shot of doubling the debt or going to $0, or just walking away saying, okay, I'll owe you $10 and that's it. More people are willing to gamble when at a loss to break even. So all of a sudden the same odds are now more heavily favored by the average public, which is just a wild concept, right? Like just simply changing the understanding that you're basically fighting back from a negative position makes people take on bets that they wouldn't normally take on, right? And this is further demonstrated if you look at like average horse racing tracks. at the beginning of the day, you'll see a lot of bets for the heavy favorites in the horse races, right? Now, keep in mind, horse racing tracks take a percentage of all of the betting, right? So as an aggregate, everyone who showed up to the horse races that day, as an aggregate entity, they're all down like 15 or 17%, right? Whatever the actual racetrack is, taking as a fee for hosting, right? What they found is at the end of the day, the amount of bets placed on the massive underdog to win the race skyrockets. And a lot of it is in part because a lot of individuals are just down, right? They're down a bunch of money and they're basically going for a Hail Mary long shot to try and recoup their losses. And that's just insane idea, right? Like, why not just walk away and why risk losing more money, right? Well, it's this fantasy, this chasing idea that if I can get lucky, I can wipe out all of my day's worth of losses in one go, which, doesn't work if you're at the beginning of the day though, right? Like you wouldn't make the same bet. So a very interesting concept there, and demonstrating that people, when at a losing point, and have an opportunity to potentially break even, they're willing to take on more risk, do less favorable things in order to get back to net even, which you could kind of see that portray a little bit within like economic society when like the market is down. People who are, losing a significant amount of net worth, who don't have the ability to make ends meet, who really feel like pushed up against the wall, would start committing smaller crimes that maybe they wouldn't necessarily do, if they were in a good position, right? There's always going to be people who just commit crime blanketed, right? But there are the people who are good citizens, don't really do any sort of crime. They really do their best to like make ends meet. And when they're stuck between, debts piling up, family that they need to feed, maybe they will steal, maybe they will do something, right? The measures that they're willing to take to get back to at the break-even point for their life, the wider that gap is, the more they're willing to do in order to get there, the more they're willing to risk to get there. So, kind of leaves that idea of, try and assess where everybody is at and, be careful if you're out there, right? Try to be cognizant of where you're at and think about, okay, I am at a significant loss right now. Will the next decision I make be a logical decision, or will this be a decision based around this concept that I am operating at a loss right now and I am trying to, like, with flawed logic, recoup my losses by taking more risk? So it's also a good reminder to just kind of keep present about yourself, right? Understand what is fueling the decision that I'm about to make here, right? I know for me personally, I play poker a lot, and I play very small stakes. I play like 2 cent, 5 cent games. But I noticed that when I bet and I lost a hand and I'm now down 50% of my buy-in, right? My play and my thought process changes completely, right? I do find myself kind of feeling the pressure to make decisions, to go for big plays, and trying to rein that in and keep that in check is something that I'll now be able to kind of think about because of this book. So anyways, I really hope you enjoyed the video. It's a very fascinating book. I recommend you pick it up. I'll probably put a link down in the description for the book. I'll likely be making more videos on the topics discussed in that book because it is so dense with awesome information. There's another one about how humans bucket their money into different pools of like, this is what this is for, this is what this is for, and it can actually start to cost them down the line by doing that, right? Instead of just letting money be fungible, right? Be able to like go anywhere it needs to go in order to fill its need. So just amazing book. It's a lot like The Psychology of Money in that it's no nonsense. Like once you get beyond how the book got to be where it is today, or how it, was created, once you get past that part in Misbehaving, it's a very condensed, like 2 pages to this one, 5 pages to this one, 10 pages to this one. and just goes back to back to back to back to back. And it's very interesting stuff. And it's very easy to read if you aren't really one to sit down and read a lot in one chunk of time because the chapters are so short. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found this helpful, and hopefully this can kind of start to make you aware of some of your decision making that you're making in times of loss, and try and keep your head about you, and don't make a decision to try and recoup your losses that you wouldn't make normally, and keep your wits about you. Anyways, hope you all have a wonderful day.